for agreeing to do it. Oh, and we're live. So I'm AnnMarie. I'm stupid dumb breast cancer. Whenever I say that, I always think I'm not really stupid and dumb, but I did have breast cancer. So I am live on the Mighty today on my monthly, and I'm super excited to bring these two badasses with me to have this conversation. We're going to talk about environment a little bit and genetics a little bit and whatever else flows into it. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to my two fabulous partners in crime here. I have Maimah. Maimah is part of a fabulous organization called Tigerlily. Maimah and I have been friends for a really, really long time. We're both unicorns, and we believe that by nature. We have lost friends, we have gained friends, and we believe that talking about our stories is truly our mission in a very candid, real way. And then I have a brand new friend that I'm super excited to introduce you to. His name is Antwone. And what sucks is he has breast cancer. And I think his conversation is really important. I've done a lot, you guys all know, with the Male Breast Cancer Coalition and different groups. I have 4 boys, so talking about breast cancer is super important to me. Whenever I speak publicly, my first thing about breast cancer is I ask people, what is your highest risk to get breast cancer? And people always raise their hands. Genetics, my mother had it, I'm a woman. And I'm like, hey, no, dummies, it's if you have breasts. And guess what? Men have breasts. And men actually get breast cancer at a more aggressive rate because they're not checking themselves as much. And it's not something that they're thinking about. And I really think that we need to talk to our doctors and encourage them to be speaking to our children, our sons and our husbands and our boyfriends and whomever about breast cancer, because it's time to shake it up. So let's get talking. So first, let's talk about environment and genetics. What do you guys think about that? Do you think environment played a part in your diagnosis?
I think it does. There have been people, I don't think there are many evidence-based studies that are conclusive around how environments affect genetics, but I think it only makes sense that if you're in an environment that has, whether it's, emotionally has stress and has, your body has the environment that's not, clean up toxins, and you're putting in certain things into your body, those things are going to affect your body's ecosystem. So there's like the emotional stuff that could affect your stress levels, that could affect your body. Then there's environmental stuff and genetics around what you're eating. If you eat certain foods over time, I think that I've read studies where it shows that your body's DNA, your genes could change over time based on your family's health history, and that could impact your cancer risk. So I also think it's, if you're in a place that has a lot of toxins, like toxins that affect your body in ways that are not healthy and can be deathly. So I think that the risk is very, very, it's high.
Absolutely. Antwone, did your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, or anybody have breast cancer?
I do have a couple of members of my family that battled breast cancer. My grandmother, my aunt. But I tested negative for the BRCA gene, so it wasn't genetic for me. I absolutely feel environment plays a part. I think anything that we ingest into our system, whether it be through our skin pores, whether it be through eating, whether it be through conversation, or even thoughts, what type of dialogue are we having with ourselves? All of this for me constitutes environment. Yeah. So I absolutely, I believe that environment plays a big role in the genetic piece, because we know that our body is always regenerating cells.
Right. Maimah, did you?
To Antwone's point, like your skin is your biggest organ. Your skin is your largest organ.
Yes.
And we put a lot of shit on our skin, right?
Oh, do we?
And when you think about when you put stuff on your skin that goes into your body, those things can alter even we learned that certain kinds of water can be bad, or certain plastics. Like right now I'm drinking out of a plastic bottle. Just like whatever, it's COVID. But anyway,
I can't everything on COVID.
Yeah. But anyway, so even that's not the best, because when you freeze bottles, or if they're in extreme heat, they can there's certain properties in bottles that are like, I think it's, if they're not BPA free, right, that can alter your genetics and be really unhealthy. And so it's important to me, I think, as a cancer survivor, to do things like be cognizant of my emotions, my environment, emotionally, who's around me. That's a really big word, right? Your ecosystem. I spent an hour every morning meditating. So my friends say, well, you have all of that kind of time. Well, I can't afford to not have that kind of time.
You have
Whether
to
it's 10,
schedule. You have to
what,
schedule it like a business meeting.
what,
That
it's
is
like a
part of
meeting.
your daily
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah. But my body deserves that time to quiet that environment, to have a healthy mental state and to go into my day in a way that's mindful, where I'm making healthier choices. So even these mindfulness tactics, in fact, affect your environment, that affect your body's ecosystem, that could alter your genes over time.
I'm actually so glad that you both are talking about that, because for me, right before my diagnosis, I had a breakdown and I was hospitalized for mental health issues. I was having suicidal thoughts. I was extremely depressed. And then a year later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember reading this doctor talking about, through stress, you either grow or you grow a tumor. And now, nobody give me hate. I'm not saying that, stress people get cancer. That's not what I'm saying. But we do kind of, do that. I don't want to say do it to ourselves. That's not the right word, but it does affect us. It cannot not affect us. With all of that being said, and I want to point something out because it's very important for this conversation, it's nobody's fault. This is not about a blame game because you didn't eat enough freaking blueberries, enough antioxidants. It's not because you didn't meditate enough. That is not why you got cancer. You got cancer because cancer sucks and it's a little beast and it enters us no matter what. However, there are ways to better our health around that. And I think that's the important thing. Maimah, I have a question. Did you test for BRCA?
I did, but I was not BRCA positive.
Okay.
But
All three of us were negative. I want to say one thing about that. I just want to know how that made you guys feel. Because for me, I was like, I kind of wanted it to be positive only because I wanted it cancer. I wanted it to say, oh, I got cancer because it's genetic. How did you guys feel when you got that results? Antwone, why don't you go first?
When I got back results that I was negative for the breast thing,
were you happy?
I was happy. I pretty much expect. So I grew up over east, southeast side of Chicago, which is it's a cesspool for a lot of factories, swampland. It's the borderline of Indiana.
Gotcha.
So it was just terrible. The environment over there it wasn't the best. Though I had an aunt pass from breast cancer, and I had another aunt pass from leukemia. My grandmother also had breast cancer. Overall, throughout my family, the only thing that we've really had was diabetes. So I never, though you never know, I never really expected it to come back positive. So I definitely felt good, and I was reassured and ecstatic that it wasn't genetic.
Sure.
But yeah, I felt good about that.
How about you, Maimah?
Being that I had triple negative breast cancer, I wanted an answer. I wanted something to tell me, like, here's why this happened to you. I knew it wasn't my fault. I ate healthy, exercise, excuse me, had no family history, but I'm like, what does that mean? Where did it come from? and you're right, it's no one's fault, but you go back to like what caused it to happen. And so I was happy to have that, like, okay, well, I'm good. But then I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, what do I'm a fixer. I'm a doer. I'm going to freaking fix that shit, be a badass. And I'm like, I can't fix this. I don't know what caused it. And my doctor asked me a really weird question. He's like, have you been under a lot of stress lately? And I was like, well, yeah. And then he's like, well, kind of like what? And so I had a lot of emotional turmoil in my life. I was in a very unhealthy relationship. I'm a giver. So I thought, if you love and love and love, at some point the person will get better. And it was, I can say this now because I don't really give a fuck. Like, it was pretty, abusive. And, before I thought, I'm so strong, how am I even allowing this to happen? But I thought if I love the person more, he'll get better,
Right.
And he ended up leaving me after my diagnosis. And that was very heartbreaking. But there was like 6 years of like continuous, like mental, a lot of other just, at you. And so I'm not saying that caused the cancer, but I'm saying that, when you're being attacked and you're going home in fear and living in a state of fear,
your body
it amasses a large amount of cortisol and other things that are not healthy. And when you're not equipped to process and get rid of those things, you're not sleeping well, you're not turning over your cells enough, you're not, your body's just fodder for all kinds of what I would call dis-ease, not, like,
right.
So my doctor said, Maimah, I really think that this is a factor. And she was kind of innovative because people were not asking that question back in the day. They were just thinking, well, do you have a history? Well, no. Most people that get breast cancer have no history of breast cancer in their family. So we have to look at things like the environment, genetics, stress, and so forth. So I'm really a strong proponent of your overall environment, your relationships, to your point, Antwone, your skin, what you're putting in your hair and skincare products, your mind, what's coming in out in your mind. And in my house, I have two TV sets, and they're usually off. I don't have cable. I want to make sure my environment is
why we get along so well.
I moderated for my freaking self, because they can affect your body in so many ways.
So I think it's important that we are talking about environment in that scope, because so many people just go right to, what food we put in our body and skincare products. I'm going to flip the conversation just a little, because I think it's really important, and why I'm so glad that both of you are on this call. People of color have a higher rate of getting cancer. Am I correct in saying that? Maybe you probably have the exact number for me, but
yeah.
What's the number? Give me the number.
Well, most women of color have a 40% higher mortality rate than women.
40%. That's a 40% huge number. And right. I'm going to use you, Antwone, because you're male. And males not only get cancer, they get it at an aggressive rate, and their death rate is significantly higher because they're not catching it in time. And I do want you to tell us just a little bit about your diagnosis right now, if you don't mind.
I was initially diagnosed in December of 2013.
How did you find it?
I found it because I started over time. I started noticing when I wore certain type of T-shirts, kind of like the one I have on now with the silk screen. Yeah. I would notice like the left side of my chest or my pec would get really sensitive to the point where I just stopped wearing. Like I could just be walking, and that started to progress. And then I started when I was on tour in 2013 at the end of the year, toward the end of the year.
I forgot to mention he's a hip hop artist. You can throw that out there.
I was on the treadmill, and it's interesting because one of my coworkers always drank coffee. Like she's one of those people that drink coffee all the time. She was actually our manager at the time. And you know that term, say it, don't spray it. People, yeah. When they talk, some of their words get on your shirt. She was one of those people. So a couple times after the treadmill, I would notice a brown spot on my T-shirt, a really small spot, but nonetheless a little brown spot. So I chalked it up to that. Oh, this is some of her conversation on my shirt, but yeah. I started noticing it consistently. It was in the same area. So it got me to thinking. And as that progressed, I was lucky even though I was lucky to go to the doctor at that time, but unlucky because I'm a male. One of the areas that the system is flawed is that when a male has certain symptoms, they rule that out. They try everything else and look for everything else. So they give you antibiotics. They tell you, oh, there's nothing, keep an eye on it, because they're banking on that 1%.
Did you have black discharge coming out? Is that what the spot was? Was it discharge? Yeah. I had that too. That's how I found mine. We're twins.
Oh, yeah.
You look identical.
Don't we?
It was the discharge that, it really caught my attention. But when I went to get checked for it, they said, oh, it's nothing. The left side of your chest is just creating multiple cysts. We don't know why. Let's keep an eye on it. So we kept an eye on stage 1 and 2. By the time I was diagnosed, I was stage 3.
Keep an eye on it. Are words that you should never really hear. Because that's what they said to me too. Oh, it's nothing. Just keep an eye on it. I'm like, you got black discharge coming out of my nipple, buddy. That's not something we're going to keep an eye on.
Right.
And then you got smacked again, correct?
Right. Yep. I got snapped again. We kept the eye on it. By the time I was diagnosed, the discharge had gotten really bad. I remember being at the dinner table, went out to dinner after recording, and I just felt the left side of my shirt was just really wet. So I excused myself from the table. I went into the restroom, and there was a huge stain on my shirt. So I went and checked myself into the hospital, and one test led to another, and I was being told I had stage 3 breast cancer.
So I met men texting my daughter, sorry. being a mom and a boss and but so I met some men who have had breast cancer, and it said that it's a very isolating feeling because, there's been so much movement around breast cancer, but for women. And then as a man, it's like some men feel emasculated, they feel left out, they feel like, how do I even tell people about this and get support? So what are some of the things you went through when you found out you were diagnosed, and how did you cope and find empowerment through your journey?
We literally were going to ask the same question.
My bad.
No, I love it. That's why I
We're
love
twins.
it.
We're twins too, right?
Oh my God, I'm twins with both. We're triplets.
So for me, what I did was I did what everybody does at first, or at least I think a lot of people do. I went to Google.
Oh,
that's the worst.
And I started Googling brown. If you Google anything, if you Google what does it mean when three people do a live broadcast, it'll say
and they're triplets.
That means they have cancer. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
When I read that, I whipped out my little violin and I was playing it through the house all day, every day. Woe is me. But then I said, you know what? I watched my aunt. I watched several close family members and friends die from this illness. And a big thing for me is they never talked about it. That was one thing that stuck out in my head, that they didn't talk about it. And for me, when I have some shit on my mind or on my chest that I want to talk about, if I don't talk about it, it drives me nuts.
Oh, you were going to get something off your chest, all right.
So I went to Facebook and just announced, hey, y'all, this Twan, look, this is what happened. I got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I just started sharing. That way, it's transparency. I don't have to feel weird when I'm around loved ones and family members. It's in the air. I'm not hiding anything because I'm big on managing stress in my adult years, because I was the person like Maimah. Did I pronounce it right?
No. No, Antwone. Maimah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're triplets after all.
I know, what the heck?
I apologize. Well, just the spelling. I grew up around Islam, so with that spelling, the AI, I assumed it had like an Arabic origin. So I pronounced it Maimah, which is one way to pronounce it.
What does it mean in Islam?
I don't know what it means, but the spelling of it, the AI and the H at the end, it looks like a Muslim name. So I took a shot at Maimah, but I was dead wrong. It's Maimah.
Hey, it sounds sexy. I'll take it.
For those who don't know, those who are watching this and don't know, Maimah goes back a long time, and we just threw this poor guy in the middle of this. He's probably like, he can't tell if we're serious or if we're joking. We are totally joking. That's all we are. We are fun, sarcastic humor. So I'm glad you're being a good sport about it.
But it's about life, this whole journey is like traumatic and it's like shitty, but you have to be able to laugh when you can, because life is just so unpredictable.
Someone once told me that I couldn't laugh at certain situations. You can't laugh at funerals. You can't laugh when someone's dying, and you can't laugh here. I'm like, first of all, don't tell me when I can or cannot laugh, because laughing and humor is my coping mechanism. So don't tell me when I can or cannot do that. Maybe it's uncomfortable for you. I'm sorry, but I need to do it for me. So cracking jokes has been like how I got through this crap. My God.
Sometimes you like literally like this morning I woke up and, I've lost my best friend. I have two. One passed away, be 3 months in like 4 or 5 days. And, all this happening with our world, and I've lost some other friends. Like literally I lost like 5 people in less than 2 months.
You sure did.
And it was back two of them were back to back, plus the racism and all that's happening. And I literally woke up this morning, I woke up crying, and I was like having a panic attack, and I was choking and I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. And so I know how to manage that. I've been through, we've been through, I would discuss on our other conversation, like dealing with stress and panic and all that, and people you serving who are metastatic and people you love. But then so I called one of my really good friends. I sent her a text, can you talk? I need you. And she's like, she called me. And she got me, we walked through my tools together. Said, I want a company. And then next thing I'm in the bathtub talking to her and I'm laughing. And, and then we're laughing about like just stupid stuff. And it was like, so, I mean.
But you bring up an important point, because that's your tribe. Those are people that you need to connect with. And I'm going to use cancer for an example for this. In the breast cancer community, the obviously it's women are more outspoken. It's just how it is. the men in this group do feel isolated because of that reason, because there's so many women. But you and I both have worked with many men who have, realized that they need to connect, and we welcome them. We want to hear their stories. It is so important. So I guess why I'm saying this, Antwone, is that, you're always welcome in this tribe. Like this tribe is for you. It's not, I don't look at breast cancer, especially, or any cancer really, as male or female. It's just cancer. Cancer freaking sucks. And it doesn't matter. There's no easy cancer. So don't give me crap about that. There just isn't, because you don't know somebody's story. I once worked with this woman who, she had DCIS, which is a very low stage breast cancer. She had left her abusive husband in one state and moved all the way upstate. She took her children with her. She was living in her car, and she needed to have blood work done, but she didn't want to use her insurance because her husband, her soon-to-be ex-husband, could have tracked her. Her cancer is extensive to her. Now, I had another friend who had stage 4, but she had this incredible support system around him. I'm not saying stage DCIS is worse than stage 4. That's not what I'm saying. But our own personal journey affects our cancer diagnosis, no matter what. And, Antwone, you were saying you grew up is really a toxic area. I can understand that. I grew up in the middle of freaking plants. I mean, I could tell you 40 people of my friends that had breast cancer or autoimmune affected by the toxins in the air. I mean, how you grew up affects you. It just does.
And how can we support men with breast cancer? Like, I feel like now, AnnMarie, thank you for bringing this up, and meeting you, Antwone, you're awesome. Like, I want to know how I can support you, because it is a very breasty type world. It's women with breast cancer, but like to your points, both of you, like, you have a lot to say and you have your experience, and that's really important that you don't feel left out.
Right.
I think it's important to just really embrace each, and if we all embrace each other's situation and story, like something interesting to me was that it's an entrepreneur here by the name of Barbara Bates. She's a fashion icon from over the years, and in the music industry and other industries. But she's a breast cancer survivor, and she has a fashion show, breast cancer fashion show, that she does every year to raise money. And one year I was invited to be a part of the fashion show. And it was a really interesting experience because she sought after me for me to be in the show. And it was all this, I gotta have you in the show, gotta have you. So then when I showed up, no one took time to consider, where is Antwone gonna get dressed? So there was no dressing room situation put aside for me. My suit measurements, they didn't take time to get my suit measurements right. So I'm modeling a suit that's 3 sizes too big. And then when I try to engage in conversation with some of the other survivors, it was like the energy that I was getting was like, what is he doing here? This is our moment. Why is he here? This is, and it was just weird. It felt like some music industry shit. And I was just like, you know what? I'm straight. I never went back and did the show again.
Okay, let's be real. Maimah, you know where I'm going to go with this. I hate to say it. The cancer community can be very cliquey. It's just how it is. I'm sorry that you experienced that. I've experienced extremely similar situations with different groups. It's just true. And one thing I love about Maimah and why she's my homie is because she stayed out of all that crap. And I did too. We do our own thing.
We're unicorns.
We're unicorns. I ain't got time for that. But you should not have been treated like that. Like, that to me is unacceptable. And also why there's a divide in the cancer community, men, women, metastatic, early stagers. This is why there's a divide in the community, because of situations like this. And it's got to stop, period.
Yeah, Antwone, you're not alone, because even though you're a man and that's a unique factor in many ways, but I got treated like shit sometimes. People are like, when I first began, what are you doing here? Like, why are you, I would be asked, why are you here? And are you a doctor? No, I'm a patient. Oh, what's your foundation called? Tigerlily. Well, what is that? And I tell them, well, people just didn't take me seriously. They were constantly asking me why I was here.
Like people start tripping on you. It's like, I'm not trying to get famous for this shit. Like, to be honest, you could take me out of the race. I'm not even trying to be nominated.
That's the quote for the day. Like, we're not trying to get famous.
Yeah, this is not something I want to be famous for. Look at this guy. He has cancer. Like, no. So it was just crazy to me. And it was interesting that Sinbad, the comedian, was the host. And he came to me at some point in the night. He was like, man, you don't have to say nothing. I feel you. And I was just like, man, bro. And I I never went back and did the show, and that's part of why why I'm really reluctant when I'm invited to do certain things in the cancer community, because it's ridiculous.
But you can't let that, I think for me, the more people tell me no, to me, no is like saying you already won, right? Because the work that we're doing is God's work. People are living with cancer and many are dying. So the more people told me no, I just said, okay, thank you. I'll see you at the next level where I'll be ahead of you next time. So I just didn't let it stop me, because the work that you're doing, even just your story, Antwone, I've known you for like, 25 minutes. People need to know your story. Other men, other women, even if you have a daughter, like there's hereditary genetic issues, that could be in your family. So like, versus letting it make you walk away in a sense, I would lean in and I would say, God, my purpose is bigger than this pain. And how can I use that for a deeper, how can I use my purpose and my passion? How can I use my pain for purpose and for
love
passion?
that sentence. That's my favorite sentence of yours.
It's
And
interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that, Maimah, because that's what I decided to do was use my platform and grow that out. So I started doing a documentary that I'm still in the makings of, which has a book component to it. The book and documentary are both called "Cancer Saved My Life: How a Killer Became a Hero." I'm a musician. I'm an artist, so I share my story through my music and other platforms, and I just say, you know what? I'm just gonna lift my voice as loud as I can in any way that I can, and not worry about what everybody else is saying. Because if somebody wants to become the first cancer pop star, have at it. You want to be a pop star in the survivor community, have at it. I'm not. It was just really weird, like being discriminated against because you want to tell your story. Like, no, this is
and that's a shame.
A woman thing. It's not a man thing.
No, it's a cancer thing. And the truth of it is the reason why I always have someone different on the Mighty with me is because my story might not resonate with somebody, but your story might, and your story might not resonate with someone, but Maimah's story might. If we don't share our stories in this manner, then we're never going to be able to get to, I don't want to say the cause, but it could be the cause, how to get through this. You don't get over this. So everyone just get rid of that idea. You don't get over having cancer. That's not something you just check off in a box. Okay, I did that, I'm done. But you can get through it. And the only way to get through it is by having these conversations with each other. And also, it just is very clear to me that the three of us need to have some sort of event ourselves and screw the haters. We can have, Maimah and I can have a dance party with just about anybody.
Yes, we can.
I'm down.
Well, I guess another thing that I really think is important to cover is age. How old were you guys when you were diagnosed? I know I'm throwing it out there.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
37.
How old are you?
I was 37 when I was diagnosed.
I was 32.
And so my point is I always hear different ages. I never hear one certain age. And I think cancer, especially breast cancer, was dubbed like the auntie's disease or the grandma's disease. And that's just not true. We have to break those stigmas. Maimah and I both have friends, and Antwone, we'll introduce you to all of them, who were 19 when they were diagnosed, 21 when they were diagnosed. People get cancer at all different ages. It's not one age. And we have to break that stigma, because I hated it when people would say, oh my God, you're so young, I can't believe you got cancer. It doesn't discriminate. Age, race, gender, it doesn't matter.
But that's why women who are younger that's why they have higher mortality rates, because they're not getting educated, weren't getting educated in time.
Right.
They go to a doctor if they found a lump and they were told they get dismissed. And then the screening tools that were available years ago were not detecting tumors in denser breasts. So there were so many disparities against women who are younger. Mm-hmm. So one of the things Tigerlily has worked to do is to create a platform for young women to ensure that their voices are heard. And so now they can't ignore us. So, but if you're not getting heard, not getting tested, and being turned away, what's going to happen is you're going to become metastatic and you could lose your life. So, you have to start talking about these things, whether it's age. And that's why we love our work around disparities, is about age, stage, and color. Right. So whether you're young, metastatic, and a woman of color, or man of color, we want to be able to end them.
And advocating for yourself. I think all three of us can confirm that, right? Because if we didn't advocate for ourselves, we all would be in a different boat right now. I would have been farther along. And Antwone, if you didn't say, I'm taking myself into the hospital here, there's something going on, so many things would change. And I think as humans, we see people in, you know, a white coat, they're a doctor, and all of a sudden we think that they're superior to us. And no disrespect, I love my doctors, but they're working for us. It's something that we all need to remember. We hired them, and we can fire them. So
it's
hire and fire accordingly.
exactly.
Can I chime in on that point real
Yeah,
quick?
let's do it. 'Cause I can
So it's a
tell you-
running joke. It's a running joke at the hospital that I made my home for treatment. Half the staff there, they call me the guy from the Dos Equis commercial. They call me the Dos Equis guy because they're like, this dude finds a way around everything. Whatever we tell him, he's going to find a way around it to get. Like, I may ask them to help me to accomplish something. They may say, well, that's not how we do it. And I'll go around them and get it done anyway. So, and that's like my big piece with doctors. Like, doctors aren't used to us asking the right questions or saying the right things. Like, when I was diagnosed, I had a doctor tell me after the mastectomy, and he said, well, Antwone, after mastectomy and chemo, he said, well, Antwone, you may be cured, you may not be. But because we don't know, you need to do this radiation and it will increase your survivor chance. And I said, well, what would my chances be increased to? He said, well, 50-50. I said, well, really? I said, well, doc, no pun intended to you. I respect your degree and all the money you paid for your degree. But I said, let me ask you a question. If I was on my way to your house, would you just start giving me directions? I'll make a left at the next corner and go up to, or would you ask me, where are you? He said, I'll have to know where you are. I said, well, you walked in this room and you told me you have no idea where I am, but you told me where I'll be if I follow your instruction. And that doesn't sit well with me. We have to have a real conversation about this. And he got upset. Well, it's not, well, I'm a numbers guy. What am I increased to? 50-50. Again, no pun intended, doc. 50-50 is fancy talk for I have no fucking clue what's going to happen.
That's fancy talk for
Because I said, doc, you have to at least give me 51-49. At least don't give me 50-50 because according to you, I'm 50-50 now. And I'd rather be 50-50 with me behind the steering wheel than you behind the steering wheel. And he got really upset. Well, it's not like I need the money. And I'm like, whoa, how did we get here?
So, well, also that's why many Black patients aren't even offered genetic testing.
Right.
Like, you should be offered testing off the bat to be able to help create that path. Before you get it, before you have directions, you have to know your history, your genes. They have to know more about your lifestyle, your diet, your mental health, your life journey. So I think that's why personalized medicine is so important. And genes, getting your genetic testing is so important. So you have a person who's steering you in the right direction based on knowing where you are holistically. Not just going and saying, well, how old are you? Family history, yes or no? Because literally they ask a couple of questions and they make these assessments without really knowing your body makeup.
And real body makeup, your minerals and your vitamins, like what are you deficient in? What do you need more of?
That part.
Right.
And that's what pissed me off. That's what pissed me off because Western medicine as we know it, they take a blood panel and they break each panel up separately. So if you want to know about your vitamin D, I'm just going to tell you about vitamin D. Oh, you wanted to know vitamin C too? Oh, that's a separate charge. I had to go to a holistic doctor and get a full panel done. But insurance companies don't want to pay for that.
No, they don't.
Because it's counted to the hustle.
But that's so true, and it's so wrong. So last year I got really sick, and it turns out I had some kind of virus. But I saw 3 different doctors to get my blood work drawn. And they're like, your blood work's fine. You look fine. I could barely get out of bed. I was so weak. I was so tired. No energy. I literally felt like I felt worse than it when I was in chemo. So finally, I was like, this has been going on for 2.5 months. I go and see my friend who's a naturopathic doctor, holistic doctor, and a chiropractor, and nutritionist. And she says, Maimah, take this test. It's more holistic than your other blood work. And she said, the insurance may or may not pay for it, but even if they pay for it, it's going to cost you more than it'll cost for your doctor, right? And it was expensive, but she literally found the problem like this, gave me supplements to take. I felt better in 2.5 weeks.
Because your body is deficient. It needs vitamins and minerals. Like that's what you do.
I went to my other doctor and I said, I went back. I'm like, I'm going to come back to educate your ass. So I saw your freaking ass like 3 different times and saw you and you and you, and you didn't test for these things. He goes, well, we can't test for those things because we would have people coming in here getting tested and finding all sorts of things. then we would have more chronic issues, more issues to treat. So I said, let me get this straight. You'd rather not do a more expensive test because it's not covered by insurance, have the person get more sick, and then treat them then, versus doing everything at one time and giving the patient more empowerment, more education, and a better quality of life.
Better lifestyle.
A better life, period, right?
The harder part of all of that is insurance, because a lot of people don't even have insurance for their original treatment, let alone to get a panel done like that. And I've listened to researchers talk about, now, while taking vitamin D and vitamin C and boosting your folic acid doesn't cure cancer, what it does is it helps your body regulate during chemo better. It helps your body regulate during radiation better so that you can recover better. That's part of it. It's not about, I'm not stupid. I know that turmeric's not going to cure cancer. However, the benefits of turmeric for your body are fantastic.
Yeah, those are all excellent points. Like, something that I say to my friends a lot when they don't understand, well, why don't you just do what the doctor say, this, that? I say, well, let me ask you a question. If you could go to your hairstylist or your beautician or your barber, and they could give you this masterful hairstyle or haircut that'll never grow back, and you never have to see them again, how happy would your barber or your beautician be? Now let's talk about our doctors. How happy would a doctor be? But first, I don't even believe doctors are equipped to tell us what we need to do.
No, they can educate us. I do see where you're going with that. And I think that the other part to it is some doctors, and not all by any means, just like some people are nice and some people aren't. Some doctors just aren't equipped to handle cancer. Cancer is, there's so much uncertainty with it. Like, and I don't want to get into the whole COVID crap, but you know, when COVID hit, I kind of laughed at it because I was like, this is just like living with cancer. Like, there's uncertainties. Everyone's giving me advice I don't want. And nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. And that's really the cancer community, right? Yeah. We don't know what the hell we're talking about, honestly. Before we go, I do want to talk about one thing.
Many doctors face a lot of burden, though. I mean, they're restricted. I have doctors, my breast surgeon, you know, she loves giving her patients time. But with the insurance, you have to have a certain amount of time to see X amount of patients. So she had her private practice, but then she was struggling because patients couldn't get certain things, so she ended up going to a bigger practice. Then she's more restricted with patient care and time and attentiveness. And she would hug me and hold my hand. And some people, they don't do that anymore. They just come in, they don't look you in the eye. They have a pad in their hand. They ask a couple questions, stick something in your mouth and nose and forehead, and they're done. And so I think insurance really restricts physicians sometimes from being truly the caregivers they were meant to be, or because you don't spend 8 years in school just to make money. I don't think.
No.
I think they go into it with a heart, and then the system kind of breaks them down sometimes.
And they do lose patience. Like, that must be so difficult to lose patience. But anyway, we could talk about that for hours. I want to talk about mastectomy really, really quick. And I know it's really not a quick topic, but you know, as women, we struggle with our mastectomy. Our scars, our breasts change. You know, we don't have nipples anymore if you get them removed. You know, the implants are sometimes uncomfortable. But for a man, I've talked to many of my male breast cancer friends. So this question is really aimed right towards you. What was it like having that mastectomy and going to the pool and taking your shirt off for the first time?
So I actually made a song about that called "Getting Through It."
Oh, snap. We got to hear that song.
It was really weird because I was at the doctor and they kept calling Mrs. Young. I was in the lobby and I was like, first I was like, that's cool. There's someone else here with the same name. So I'm looking around waiting for Miss Young to get up. And after the 5th time of them calling Miss Young never got up, and it hit me. Oh, they're calling me. So I was really embarrassed. And I made a song about that where it was conversational, where I was talking about how I felt in that moment.
Wow.
And it was just really weird. I said, ma'am, I don't know if you paid attention or even read the name listed, but do I look like a Mrs., huh? Along with why I'm here to visit my physician, referring to me as Mrs. is an awkward position. Excuse me. Maybe I'm a little moody. I know a breast cancer center don't really treat dudes usually, but I do appreciate you apologizing though. Look, I just want to see my doc and leave. How much longer? You know, it was just really like conversational.
You could have kept going. I was
really awkward. It was really awkward.
Well, Antwone, I would love to share your story on our site. And if you have other male breast cancer people you talk and patients or survivors you talk with and connect with, I'd love to share theirs as well. Please. So we have a whole page about male breast cancer, and I think you're just talking to you. You're so badass and you're authentic. I love to share your story and empower other men too.
I would really appreciate that. I'm enjoying this time, being able to share this space with the both of you as well.
Yeah, I'm psyched. Well, it's been a great session with you guys, and I want to continue it. Maybe the three of us could do one on stupid on breast cancer and just kind of have it all out. But I like to end all of my ladies just letting everybody know that 1,660 people will die today of cancer on a whole. That's too big of a number. We need change for that. And our government is only donating about 7% of funding to metastatic research. Our money should all be going into research and real research. I don't need to pay somebody's salary. I don't need more awareness. I need cures, and I need to stop cancer from spreading with my friends. Worse than that, 4% of funding gets sent to childhood cancer. These are kids. It's unacceptable. When DIPG survival rate is 1%. It's 1%. We need to do more for our community, our cancer community. And I want everyone to get mad with me and make a change. And like I always say, make somebody happy or piss them off. Either way, you do you. So thank you both for being here. This was awesome. And we're going to continue this.
I look forward to it.
Bye. Talk soon, guys.
All righty.
It's going to stop in just a minute.